Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler out in California for another episode, our Tuesday episode here. I know that we said producer Zach and Jack would be back, but they're running into some technology issues that we're figuring out. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Ziggy, we will have them back for the Thursday episode as we figure that out. Well, they figure it out. With me in Chicago now and you in California, it's good luck to Zach and Jack as they work through these these technology hiccups. Did you just watch the end of the Germany-Paraguay game, Ziggy?
No.
See, I know you did. We were getting ready to record here, and we were letting Zach was trying to figure out some stuff with his Wi-Fi. And if you haven't watched it, the ending of Germany-Paraguay, the penalty kicks, one of the most enjoyable, I'd say, and kind of frustrating as someone who was rooting for Paraguay, sort of frustrating penalty kicks in that Paraguay had two chances to win there at the end and missed them both. Germany misses their sixth kick. Paraguay walks it off with a winner. And I know Ziggy watched it because as we're getting ready, he goes, well, actually, Paul, I'm getting ready to record a podcast. Why would I be watching the end of the World Cup?
Well, yeah, but then you said 3 times you have to watch this. It's nuts.
And then finally, Ziggy, you watched what, only the last kick?
Yeah.
It was awesome. So in a game like that, Ziggy, are you rooting? Because people differ on this. Are you rooting for Paraguay to upset Germany, or do you want to see Germany win so you get the Germany-France match in the round of 16?
I don't care.
You don't care at all. Like I'm talking in general. Like, would you rather see? Let's just assume I don't know if you probably have no interest in the World Cup, but if you're rooting,
well, no, I do. But my only question is which helps the Americans more. That's my only concern, and I think this is pretty irrelevant.
Got it. Okay, so as far as that goes, though, then you'd want Germany out, just in the event that Paraguay would upset France or something crazy. So
yeah,
you don't care.
but it's pretty, like, that's a pretty remote situation. Like, I don't, especially because of their distance in the bracket, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. Like, if we're getting to the semifinals, I'm thrilled no matter what. So I'm going to be watching. Like, I'd be much happier seeing a team upset Spain or Austria. Senegal beat Belgium. That would be really big for me.
I was just curious because, with the U.S. being in a position where it's unlikely they go on a deep run to the semifinals, or the finals would be unbelievable.
But we have a pretty favorable draw as things go.
Yeah, it weakened when Belgium had the ridiculous win and Egypt tied Iran or Iraq. I can't remember who it was. And now we get Belgium in the round of 16 if we beat Bosnia. But yeah, I mean, some people just like to see the best matchups. And if Germany-France would have been a game that everyone had circled for the next round. And now Paraguay-France, it reminds me of my father, Ziggy, years ago, maybe 94. Was that the World Cup that the U.S. hosted, I believe? Italy was supposed to play Germany, and there was just some crazy upset. And I think my dad wound up seeing the Italians play, some smaller South American country, and they just pummeled them. But he bought his tickets thinking it would be, as I'm sure a lot of people bought tickets, assuming it would be France-Germany. Now they get, in all likelihood, France and Paraguay, which, unless if Paraguay just has a run for the ages in them, you'd have to imagine will be a France ass-whooping. But nonetheless, super exciting. And this is one of the first times I remember with the World Cup. I mean, Morocco went on a deep run a few years ago, but it seems like there's been a lot of upsets, and I'd even count draws as upsets. I mean, we almost had Japan over Brazil today.
Yeah, I really thought Japan was going to get it done, or at least have be closer. That ending was unbelievable. But
okay, all right, yeah. So you were one. Good.
Well, you asked me about my rooting interests, and when I'm not in the middle preparing for a football show to talk about football, I'm willing to throw on some soccer and we'll give it a watch.
What is the other game tonight? Is that Morocco and Netherlands? Is that later tonight? Yeah, that's a really good game. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun too. I'm really enjoying the World Cup. It's a great. I've said this a handful of times. It is just an awesome. If you work from home, throw it on the TV, get your job done. You kind of peek over every once in a while. I think it is an awesome work from home event.
Obviously, you should hope your employers are not watching this, Paul.
Oh, I know they're all doing the same thing. I've been on phone calls with a bunch of people, and they're watching more intently than I am. I'll tell you that from the text in our group chat. It's very fun. It's a very fun part of working in sports is that when there are events like the World Cup or March Madness, a lot of the people you're working with are people like us, right? They're just guys guys and girls who really enjoy these tournaments. And it's like, I remember during, I think the Thursday of March Madness, my first year working, I was like trying to figure out how I could get work done on Wednesday to free up as much of the day as I could. And Thursday, like 11:30 a.m. rolls around. We end our team meeting, and our boss goes, "All right, so yeah, let's just finish that up and then enjoy the games, everyone." I was like, "This is awesome." Okay, so pros and cons to working in sports. Sometimes you have to work during those games. Sometimes you get part of the day off to watch it. But the World Cup has been a lot of fun. We'll cover more of it, I'm sure. This was not part of the rundown at all. The game just ended and it was unbelievable. So I wanted to briefly mention Germany, Paraguay. Unbelievable win for Paraguay to get to the round of 16 here. So Ziggy, today's episode, there's a take that you'll have towards the end, non-NFC North related, that I'm very excited to hear because you're really pissed off with a recent ranking in the NFL top 100 players.
It's insulting to the institution of the National Football League.
Yes. So we'll reveal who that player was that pissed Ziggy off so much, as I believe they're on to player 88 is the next one to come up. As of right now, our boy Kyron Williams at 89 on the rankings. He's the most recent guy, but that is not who Ziggy's upset with. He is very upset with someone from the 100 to 91 range, which we'll reveal in just a little bit here. We'll get to that, and we'll get to some more questions, non-NFC North, towards the end. But we'll start off, right? There was, I would say, pretty big NFC North news today with the whole Terrion Arnold situation, which we have not covered yet. Really sad situation. I mean, obviously, right, what Terrion Arnold did, you can't rob and kidnap people. Like, that is just absolutely off the table in any situation. But also just really sad to see a guy who was 23, 24 years old, throwing his life away. The Detroit Lions, they cut him earlier today. We're recording on Monday. This episode coming out Tuesday. So Terrion Arnold no longer part of the Detroit Lions. And if you go into that, the whole case, it's really sad seeing, he had $245,000 worth of items stolen from an Airbnb or around that much. And it looks like Arnold was in court, they said the GM, so to say, of kind of kidnapping, luring these guys who stole the stuff to a room with a 19-year-old girl they used to lure them, and
just a mess. Yeah,
just a mess. We don't need to get into all of it. If you want to look at the case, Arnold was not in the room or anything until much later. He was in the car actually driving over. I think they were live streaming it to him or something. And we won't go too much into the case, but yeah, just a total mess. And now he's off the Lions. And Ziggy, the question I want to ask to you, we'll keep it football related, is the biggest area of concern that I had for Detroit coming into this year was the secondary, right? It was already a unit that has Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph coming back from injury, the two stars. The cornerback room's already in question. How much does this news impact your outlook on their secondary, good or bad, football-wise?
Well, we could wonder how things would have gone if Terrion Arnold was a really effective player in the secondary, a borderline all-pro. But instead, the truth is Terrion Arnold for the Lions has been one of the worst quarterbacks in football. Since his debut in 2024, PFF ranks him 70th out of 72 cornerbacks to play 1,200 snaps or more. Now, look, maybe you don't love PFF rankings. Maybe you prefer to watch the tape. You can watch the tape, and you can also see that Terrion Arnold has not lived up at all to the expectations of being a first-round pick in Detroit. Nevertheless, as much as he hasn't been a great player for them, this is a room that needs bodies as much as anything else, and he was a guy who could play cornerback. It looks like, my guess is Rocky Sin is going to have to be the guy who steps up. Maybe it's Roger McCreary. DJ Reed will be totally fine, I think, but after that, we've got players recovering from injury. There's a lot going on in this secondary, and having one less body of a player who, even if he's one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL, was at least a cornerback in the NFL. The Lions are going to have to really hope the injury luck turns around, because the room that was already ravaged by injury just got that much more vulnerable.
Yeah, and it's not like Terrion Arnold wasn't someone who dealt with injuries. I think he missed 10 out of 34 games that he's had the chance to play in already, and in a short career. But I think you nailed it. as far as on the field production goes, Terrion Arnold has not lived up to the hype. And what's really disappointing if you're a Lions fan, just a couple picks before him in that draft. Do you remember who went? There was
that Gonzalez?
No, not. I think Gonzalez, if it was still the same draft class, was much earlier. There was, I don't think that was the same draft. Was it? Oh, let's see.
Oh no, you're thinking Quinion Mitchell. It was the Quinion Mitchell class. Yeah.
Was Christian Gonzalez? Was he 20?
No, he was the next year. Yeah, he was the previous year.
Yeah, okay. That was the Quinion Mitchell versus Terrion Arnold class. And I remember really keeping an eye on that as a Viking fan. We wound up going with, as everyone knows, JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner. But that was the battle. It was Quinion Mitchell or Terrion Arnold. And I remember when the Lions traded up and Arnold was still on the board, kind of being furious. I could not believe that he fell to them. And just as time has gone on and he came in and he struggled with penalties and then injuries and now obviously legal issues. I mean, that pick is just blown up in their face.
Well, you could be mad about the player before him, but I think Lions fans are probably a lot more upset about Kamari Lassiter and Cooper DeJean going just a half a dozen picks later.
I mean, all over the place. I mean, they just got the wrong guy. And I do think you're right, though, when the effect of the loss, it's not like you're losing an all-pro corner, but when you've had the injury problems the Lions have had in the secondary, you're totally right. Roger McCreary might be a better player than Terrion Arnold next year if he comes in and fills the role. He had a very strong season with the Rams last year. You are reasonable to say you have more faith in him than Arnold. But McCreary or Rakicine gets hurt for a couple games, and all of a sudden now you have the same problem that's been ailing you for 2 seasons in Detroit. It's what's kind of stripped them of this Super Bowl window is every year they're going into the playoffs and it's what's the next injury and how can they recover from it, particularly in the secondary. So it just raises more red flags as to how far or how much that unit can hold up over the course of the season. But for a team that I think has the chance to win 12 or 13 games, it's going to come down to that defense being able to be productive and stay healthy again. Because the offense we know will put up numbers. But yeah, I mean, that has to be, right, the number one concern for Detroit fans right now.
Yeah, and asking Roger McCreary to step in and do the work is a lot because Detroit has some slot corners, and I assume this is why they signed him. But the Rams last year, you said he had a great season. That's true. He also broke up one pass, and a lot of the reason for that is he's an effective slot corner, but has never been asked to take the kind of load that you need as a second cornerback. So there's a lot of questions for this room. As I say, I expect Brock Yassin to probably be the guy who wins the job. But if there's a corner who's unhappy, or like you start hearing rumors about that, we're going to hear all year long about Detroit being in the cornerback market. Because I just don't think as a team with, I think it's fair to say, Super Bowl aspirations, even though last year didn't go how they hoped.
Yeah,
this cornerback room absolutely could be the thing that holds them back. Because look, in the NFC North, you have to deal with Jordan Love and the Packers. You have to deal with Justin Jefferson. You have to deal with the Bears. Like, all of these teams are teams that can throw to guys. If you want to win these 6 divisional matchups, you have got to be able to defend the pass. And with Aiden Hutchinson and no one else on the defensive line, and now DJ Reed and no one else in the secondary, it's going to be tough.
Well, that's a world where, I mean, again, twofold here. You need Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch to come back and be okay. And we'll see. Dan Campbell has said, particularly regarding Joseph, with his knee issues from that kind of just like accumulated last year. We'll see during training camp. But we're talking 2 of the best safeties in the league. If those guys are both unable to get back to peak form, now there's some real, major concerns because they cover up a lot of the holes that secondary has. But you mentioned as well, in addition with Aiden Hutchinson, if DJ Wanum or Derek Moore, Derek Moore's the Michigan kid, if neither of them are able to step up, well, now you have that sort of balance between the pass rush and the secondary that's all out of whack because you just have Aiden Hutchinson on the field. And if the pass rush can't get there, you're asking guys in the secondary to cover maybe above their pay grade. That's where you can start to see things fall off the wheels potentially for the Lions. You mix in injury problems, who knows where this thing goes. Not saying that Terrion Arnold is, the cause of an avalanche here, because again, arguably you might be getting better play out of some other guys. but just it kind of highlights, all right, these are some of the issues we could see for Detroit next season. But just a really unfortunate situation. Just really, really sad to see someone like that kind of throwing their life away. But
yeah, I think back to the Lions last year. I think back the game to me that really decided the season for them was that loss to the Rams in the middle of December.
Crazy game, yeah.
Where Jahmyr Gibbs did basically nothing. Jared Goff carried the team to 34 points, but at the end, they just couldn't stop the Rams. I think about that Steelers game, too, just a week later, where in the second half, the Steelers just rattled off touchdown, field goal, touchdown, I believe. Like, they just needed anything from the defense. If they win either of those games, I believe that they make the playoffs. They were very, very close last year. You can't be asking the offense to put up 30 plus every single game to win. And that's basically what they had to do last year. If you go back and look at their
and the year before, right? And the year before after the injury.
The only games the Lions won last year scoring under 30 points were the Tampa Bay game in October, which was just a great all-around performance, and the Chicago game to close the season. Other than that, every single win, they were 30 or more.
And I'm pretty sure in that Tampa game, was that the game Mike Evans came back and got injured again?
Yeah.
And so Evans left that game early, and he's major difference maker, or was in Tampa. And then Chicago was freezing. It was January outside Soldier Field.
Yeah, Jared Goff threw for 330 yards that game. Let's not disrespect him.
No. But I'm saying, like, I mean, it's understandable why, they didn't need 30 points in that game. It was a freezing cold game, and Chicago had wrapped up the division.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, they pretty much had it. I guess the seeding wise could have changed.
Yeah, the Bears tried to win that game, but neither team was playing for a ton in that game.
Yeah, because Vikings and Packers. That's when with the Vikings.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying the Vikings were 4-2 in the division last year, but I don't really count that Green Bay game because Packers had all their starters.
I do.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
What was the final score, Paul? What was the final score?
I don't even remember. It was
Minnesota Vikings, more points than the Packers. Green Bay Packers, less points than the Vikings. To me, that's a win.
There was a Packer article that I enjoyed reading, and Ziggy, when I proposed this to him, said, "I guess we're at that point in the offseason." But I guess we kind of are here. It was from Lombardi Ave, written by Lou Scattaglia. It was 3 things that stand in the way of a magical Packers Super Bowl run in 2026. So I'm going to give you the 3 things that Lou said, Ziggy, and I want to hear from you which one you would say is the number one most likely reason the Packers would not be able to win the Super Bowl. What's the number one thing standing in their way? These are his reasons. So if after we're done, you say, you know what, Lou's got shitty reasons, I'm going to give you the actual number one. Feel free to do that as well. His number one reason, loaded NFC North, not winning the division, which the Packers have been unable to do for a handful of years in a row now. Number 2, Jordan Love's small but still present injury history, which he's missed 4 games over the past 2 years in the regular season. Had the concussion last year. Obviously, the knee injury in 2024 at the beginning of the year, which could have been much, much worse. And then a bunch of other, little things that have added up. And 3, there's just not enough truly great players on this Packers roster outside of guys like Kraft and Parsons, who are already coming back from injuries. Where else can you look at Green Bay and say, we have the elite difference maker here? The way that, a lot of the star-studded teams like the Rams, Seattle had JSN breakout last season, Patriots now have A.J. Brown. Can the Packers compete with those guys? Which one?
So I understand all of these reasons. Oh, I'll say this. The Jordan Love injury history thing doesn't worry me at all.
No, me neither.
I think that's looking for a reason. The NFC North being strong is also just not super relevant. Like, the Packers have shown they can win from a wild card. That's not a worry. And it feels a lack of elite star power. I understand what they're getting at there. But buried in that lack of elite star power, I think, is the real reason, which is that it's not that there aren't enough great players. It's that the players the Packers need next year are coming back from injuries, and perhaps serious ones. Like Tucker Kraft and Micah Parsons, if you had to ask me right now, are 2 of the 5 most important players on this team next year. Honestly, you could argue they're 2 of the 3 or 4 most important players on this team next year, right? Like, it's Micah Parsons, Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love. Who else is up there in that, like, competing for that top 3 spot? You could say Watson. You could say like another guy on the defensive line, but those are the three most important players on this Packers team, I think, like more than Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, well, and we'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs.
It looks like Josh Jacobs is going to play on the team.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue, just pulling up the depth chart just to,
yeah.
I mean, you could argue a cornerback if you want to pick one.
But those are here. We'll put it this way: those are the three best players on the Green Bay Packers.
Sure,
of course, like
yeah,
Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney are very good. Edrin Cooper can be very, very good. Like there's talent here.
Yeah,
but what the Packers have to ask, we saw last year without those guys, the team completely fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's a reason why. I know people haven't been super happy with December Packers football recently. Well, last year the reason they lost a bunch of games and then blew the wild card round is because they didn't have their talent on the field. And it's easy to say with modern medicine that guys are just going to come back and be better. But coming back from a torn ligament in your knee as a tight end is very difficult. Coming back from a ruptured Achilles is very, very difficult.
Yep.
And even if the Packers get off to the good start, like I think we both decided they will because of the schedule, their most important players will be either starting the season on IR or probably with Tucker Kraft not having a full offseason lead up as he's recovering. It's like that's my biggest worry is that the players that they really need on the field, Jordan Love, I'm not too worried about. But Kraft and Micah Parsons, and even to some extent, Zach Tom were really banged up last year. And I'm not sure they're going to be entering the season 100% when the team desperately needs them. Like there is star power on this team.
Yeah,
but that star power won't be on the field week one.
That's what I wanted to clarify with you. You do think that the team has, and I mean, I think it was a mailbag question last week for if everyone stayed healthy, who do you think is the best team? And I believe you said Green Bay. But yeah, if everyone's healthy, Micah Parsons, I think Jordan Love, can you call Jordan Love a star?
Yeah,
probably. I think you probably can. Tucker Kraft is someone that he was a breakout star last year. I think
he absolutely would have been if he
if he stayed healthy. But I'd like to see him. Yeah. I'd like to see a little bit more before I firmly say, okay, that's a star tight end. Like he obviously hit that level last season.
Don't forget their safeties either.
Sure, no, and Xavier McKinney's awesome. Like they've got enough talent. I think it's a stupid question to say Green Bay doesn't have great players or maybe that's a big concern because when they were all firing last year, they were potentially the best team in football. But I'm with you. Yeah, it's the world in which those guys come back and can't hit that level again or aggravate their injuries, and you see them sort of slip. And that's maybe where you could have Jordan Love's injuries kind of come into the fold because he is someone who has been a little injury prone. And you miss a game or two, like that's where I might disagree a little bit with you, Ziggy, that it does matter, and that with the NFC North, they kind of all relate to each other, right? The NFC North is going to be so competitive, we're expecting, that if you do miss a couple games and Malik Willis isn't there this time to pull you out of the gutter, if you drop that, we could be looking at week 17, week 18. All right, they're a game or two back. If Love was banged up for a few games, maybe that's the reason they're not hosting a playoff game. And I don't know. Like I do think Green Bay's good enough to go on the road and win a few games, but that's a lot to ask for. It's a lot. It's really tough to go on the road and get to a Super Bowl. Only a couple teams have ever done it before. Green Bay is the only 6th seed, right? Is there another?
Yeah, one? I believe Green Bay is the only one. Look, we all agree hosting games helps a lot.
Yeah.
And but, I guess unlike you, I'm a huge Terod truther.
Say again. I'm sorry.
I'm a huge Terod truther. There's only one quarterback in NFL history of at least 10,000 passing yards, 2,000 rushing yards, 70 passing touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns, and under 35 interceptions. And that's Terod Taylor, Green Bay Packer backup.
I do like Tyrod. I am
it's
a Tyrod.
Terod.
I hear you saying that. I've always called him Tyrod.
He corrected the media last year. I'm respecting Terod's wishes.
Oh, did he? He actually came out and said it's Tyrod.
It's like Matt Stafford.
Is it the way when Bijan came out, he's like, it's actually Bijan.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, dude, just yeah. Okay, so Tyrod. I'll go Tyrod. I do like Tyrod. He should be capable, if necessary, of coming in and keeping the ship afloat. But no, I'm with you, Ziggy. I think it's the guys coming back from injury. Can they get to that level? And even in the receiver room, right? Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, they had their injuries last year. That's a major focal point for both the Packers and the Lions, who have Super Bowl aspirations. It's how are guys coming back from injuries? And I don't think it's something I don't like to use too much, because you could say that for every team kind of, but it's been
not every team has 2 of their 3 best players coming back from season-ending injuries.
Yeah, it's been relevant for Detroit. It's been relevant for Green Bay's in ways that it hasn't for a lot of the other contenders. If Matthew Stafford, we could say for the Rams, what's their biggest issue? Oh, well, Matthew Stafford hold up another season. He's coming off an MVP year. They had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They were like, all right, is that a fair? Yes, I think that's kind of a coward's way out of that question. But for Green Bay and for Detroit, okay, their seasons have kind of ended because of that the past two of the past 3 years. So it's relevant.
Well, I'll say this, like in that article, when in the lack of star power section, one thing our friend of the program, Lou, said, yeah, fair enough. I'm not trying to dunk on him too hard, but he said, look, you absolutely need to be loaded with star power. Look at the Seattle Seahawks last year. They were nothing until Jackson Smith and Jigba broke out, and they were loaded with star power. And I actually think if you're a Packers fan, that should give you some optimism. Because the Seattle Seahawks team had a lot of good players, but just last year, the Super Bowl champion was a team that had a couple of stars, a lot of good players, and everyone staying healthy down the stretch. Like that is the Green Bay formula.
Hate that. I hate that comparison, Ziggy.
Why?
Offensively, maybe you can relate it. And all right, is Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker? Maybe you could say similar running backs.
Are you telling me Seattle's defense has more stars than the Packers?
I'm saying Seattle's defense is significantly better than Green Bay's defense. Yes.
Green Bay just brought in a new defensive coordinator.
Sure. But what I'm saying is, like, when you're comparing, if you're comparing Seattle and Green Bay, like, I think that Seattle defense was, the best in the league last season, or second best.
And that Seattle defense, a lot of it was good scheme and good players playing their roles really well. It was not them being loaded with stars. There were good players on the defense, and some of them, like Leonard Williams, had great years. Devin Witherspoon had a great year. But Green Bay,
they got one of the best cornerbacks in football. They had one of the best D linemen in football. Ernest Jones.
Leonard Williams is not on the same stratosphere as Micah Parsons.
No, not as Micah. I'm not arguing. Like I'm not directly comparing.
But say Green Bay is strength. Seattle didn't.
Sure,
like,
but I mean, outside of Micah,
the defensive line's a lot better.
Is it?
I think so. The linebacker room is light years better. The safety room is much better.
I don't know if I'd say the safety room was much better.
I mean, the Seahawks safety room last year was very good. Green Bay's is the top 3 in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought Kobe Bryant and who's the rookie?
You're thinking of Eamon.
Yeah, Eamon. Yeah, Nicky Eamon. Yeah, I mean, they were phenomenal. Like, I mean, that Seattle secondary was fantastic last season. Like,
Seattle, Green Bay can do it too.
Was great. Like that, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl because of their defense, not because of Jackson Smith and Jigba and Sam Darnold. Like that's.
Yeah, so Green Bay is a better offense and a defense that when they're clicking can play at a level not the same as Seattle's, but close enough. Like, I think the Seahawks should give you confidence as a Green Bay fan. That's what I'm saying. Not that they're a carbon copy of the Seattle Seahawks.
No, but I'm going to need to see a lot from the Packers defense next season before I'm willing to even make that comparison. I mean, it was a unit that time and time again last year folded in the fourth quarter. I love the stat. Patting myself on the shoulder here. I love the stat that I found a few weeks ago during our recording. Green Bay, best fourth quarter defense in football. I'm sorry, best first quarter defense in football, worst fourth quarter defense in football. And how many times last year were we watching games? I mean, just think about the way their season ended, right? Where Chicago was unstoppable at the end of those games. Both the one that they won the regular season in Chicago and the playoff game, where the Packers just couldn't stop a nosebleed. And that is not something you saw. Like, the Seahawks defense put teams away. The Texans defense last year, I mean, they just eviscerated people. So to me, you want to compare the Packer and Seahawk offense? Go ahead. I actually might even take the Green Bay offense. I don't think the defenses are even comparable at the moment.
My point is that Green Bay has the talent to do it. And obviously they're placing a huge bet on Jonathan Gannon to turn things around. But that is the bet that they're making.
Well, and Jonathan Gannon, last time he was defensive coordinator,
it worked out pretty well for the team that hired him.
It was awesome. But again, how much more talent do you think that Eagles defense had than this current Green Bay defense?
Yeah, but also Green Bay's defense doesn't need to be that good. I think we mostly agree here.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get into real quick. Do you think this is worth? Well, I'll mention it here. I was looking for some Bears stuff, and I saw a reporter asked Ben Johnson, what about the passing game left room to be desired? It was a quote from Ben Johnson, and he came back almost immediately and said completion percentage, which is something that he was harping on during last offseason, saying,
and it didn't happen.
Remember, the whole thing came out with we want to get Caleb to 70% completion percentage. Really lofty goal, especially
and it got worse,
right? For anyone in the league, but especially someone who, as you said, you wanted to strip them down to the bare minimum of their QB abilities and go from the ground up. So to set that goal, I mean, how many quarterbacks last season? Let's see. One quarterback in the league had a 72% completion percentage. Do you know who it was?
I would guess that it was Brock Purdy.
Purdy was 69.4. Good guess. Drake May was 72%. And
hey, where was Kyler Murray on that list, by the way, out of curiosity?
Kyler was 68.3. In only 5 games, but he had significantly fewer attempts, but he came in at 5th in the league.
Shocking.
Not bad. Just watch out. But no, so you're setting a lofty goal for anyone in football, clearly there, let alone someone who you are, as he described last season, he was drowning during the offseason, trying to be remodeled, essentially. So Ben Johnson says completion percentage. Obviously, we wanted to hit that 70% number. We came in at 58 or 59%. Caleb officially last year, where was he officially?
He was 58.1.
So Johnson kind of met in the middle and said, we're shooting for 65% on the season here. And part of that is JT Barrett, their quarterback coach, said, I didn't realize JT Barrett, I keep forgetting that he's with Chicago, like that he's in coaching. My mind is still in the 2010s when he's at Ohio State. Assuming it is that JT Barrett. I have to imagine it's that JT Barrett. But JT Barrett said, right now, let me give you the quote right here. There's times where we could just work through our progressions and get the ball out on time instead of having to create and extend plays. So what I wanted to ask you about that is, while obviously getting Caleb Williams up to 65% completion percentage and running through his progressions, getting some of those easier plays is advantageous, is there any worry at all that in pushing him here, you're losing a little bit of that creativity and backyard football that makes Caleb Williams Caleb Williams?
So I want to preempt this by saying that I am aware that there was only one quarterback that started 10 or more games with a worse completion percentage than Caleb Williams, and it was JJ McCarthy. Like, I know we're going to have Bears fans coming in saying, at least we completed more passes than your guy. We know.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can make it really clear here. I think both of us are pretty big fans of Caleb Williams. Obviously not rooting for the Bears, but if you said, are you buying stock in Caleb? I think both you and I would objectively say yes.
Yeah, and I think Bears fans should be looking at the Josh Allen pre-2020 mechanics rework as the thing that was really exciting. Because Josh Allen went from, I believe, 52% his rookie season, was like unbelievable. He had his slight improvement to 58 the next year, but basically what felt like overnight, he went from being one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks to being right near that 70% mark year in, year out. So it can happen. And I have to trust that Ben Johnson, I know he's a coach with a mastermind scheme, and we worried last year that he would come in and ruin Caleb Williams. But he did his best and did a good job balancing what he wanted with what Caleb Williams was able to do. So I'm not worried that Ben Johnson is going to forget all that going into this season. Last year, there was more of a cause for concern when you were hearing, oh, this Ben Johnson guy, he's driving guys so hard, and he's a real jerk in Detroit. But he's shown that he knows how to do that and that he won't take away Caleb's ability to play the kind of football that wins Caleb Williams football games. So
Go ahead.
No, what I'm going to say is I think it's possible. I don't think you should expect that level of jump from Caleb Williams. There were a lot of things that were unique about Josh Allen doing that. I think the 70% mark, everyone in the building knows that's very aspirational. They'd be thrilled, I think, to see 65. Just because completion percentage, it's a nice marker, but who cares if you complete 65% of your passes and half of them are screens? What makes Caleb Williams such a dangerous player is that he can throw the ball 40 yards downfield on a dime for a touchdown when you need it. They're not going to take that away from him. I'm not worried about that at all.
It is fine if you find that range where Caleb again can continue to slow the game down. You look at the sack totals go from 68 his rookie year to 24 last season. Continue to slow the game down, have less of those big time negative plays, which we've already seen such a reduction in. He does it again and is able to couple that with still having the ability to like pick and choose his spots for the unbelievable jaw dropping. One of 2 or 3 guys in the league can do that kind of things. That's when we're talking about an MVP caliber Caleb Williams and an NFC North that's going to be looking around saying, all right, the Chicago Bears, they're a real problem, like a real big problem, not just last season, not just this season, but for the next decade plus. If he's able to put it together. And I really think from what we've seen, there's more reason to believe it's going to happen than not, which is kind of a scary thought as a Viking fan. If you were a Bears fan, Ziggy, would you want Ben Johnson pushing the guys as hard as he did last season? That's been a point of contention in Bears circles. Is they started suffering some injuries. Do you want to keep that level of intensity ramped up the same way it was last offseason?
You have to. The thing that made the Bears a playoff team last year was their ability to come out and play intense football no matter the circumstance. And I think if you back off of that, people can say injuries are associated with the tougher practices or whatever. It's hard to know exactly. But what you could see on the field every single week was that the Bears were one of the mentally toughest teams in football.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Almost every single week, it felt like they were screwed and had no chance of winning, and they pulled something out of the hat. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen this year at the same level because that's just not sustainable. But why would you ever want to give up that attitude? And it's not like players were coming out and complaining and saying, oh, this Ben Johnson guy's a real jerk. They were saying he's working as harder than we've ever worked, and we want more of it. We want new expectations around here. And
just playing devil's advocate. I mean, there is, though. There usually is some sort of a tax that comes back to get you when you're working that hard. And I mean, the Bears did have a handful of injuries start to pile up. And look, injuries can happen at any point. So I'm with you. I would keep the intensity up. I do believe it was more important last season to have that approach in taking, pulling these teams out of the gutters. If you're a Browns fan, you're a Jets fan, it's hard to do that. What Dan Campbell did with Detroit and what Ben Johnson, especially in 1 year, right? 1 season, the turnaround that they had for franchises that have kind of been just down in the dumps. I know the Bears aren't quite on the same level of where the Lions, Jets, and Browns were, but it's been pretty bad. Chicago fans will tell you that. To come into last offseason, you needed the no nonsense, nothing tolerated attitude. This offseason, if they pull back a little bit, I'd get it. I doubt they do because that's just not how Ben Johnson's wired.
I'll tell you why you can't. The thing that sinks these teams and that sunk the Bears back in 2018 was they had one good season and they eased off the gas because they started feeling complacent because finally things are turning around.
Yeah.
What also screwed them was the fact that Bears team wasn't any good. But
I think it was the turnover differential, which this Bears team did have last season, right? But then the big one is where it's Caleb versus Mitch. What was the article? What was the article that you sent to our good buddy Weston Dell?
I can't even remember.
What was it like? It was like something along the line. Maybe Weston sent it to us. It's like, the Bears are different this time. It's because of Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah,
it's that and apply it with Caleb Williams. That's the actual reason to believe. All right, maybe this time it's different because they have Caleb Williams.
I'll tell you the reason to believe is we saw the future of the Bears offense last year in one game, and it was the December game against San Francisco. If you're a Bears fan or a fan of any team, you should go back and watch that game because that is when Ben Johnson showed what the future of this offense is going to look like.
I remember, I want to make sure I'm correct in this, but I believe that was the game. I mean, it was late in the season. It was week 17, but that was the game.
That was a 38-42, just brutal loss at the end of the game.
There were a couple Bears games last year. I mean, man, they had just such a fun season. If you're a Chicago fan, there were a couple games. I'm looking at their schedule right now, where you kind of sat back and went, okay, like that's different. That's impressive.
That game in particular, Paul, I'll just tell you.
I remember we were texting during that, and we were like, "Oh, this is not good."
That was where we saw Caleb Williams unleashed vertical passing to Luther Burden and Colson.
Oh, Caleb was just ripping it in that game. Let me just see. Do you remember? I mean, they had so many. There was one other game though that jumps out to me where I kind of like sat up in my seat and went like, "Wow, that
was it the Bengals game?"
But like that's the thing. You could say it about the Bengal game. You could say it about either of the Packer games, right? With the comebacks. The Philly game was the Black Friday game when they just ran all over Philadelphia, dominated them up front. That game and the 49er game, to me, they were two testaments of exactly what Ben Johnson wanted to turn this team into in different ways, right? One, just bully you up front, run down your throat. And then week 17, the aerial assault and Caleb Williams becoming a superstar or feeling like a superstar. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic in Chicago. Okay, we'll get ready to wrap it up. But there was still, again, that big gripe that Ziggy had with the NFL top 100 players. We're only 12 people into the rankings right now. But Ziggy, why don't you tell everyone who's the player that's infuriated you with their ranking?
If you look at the NFL top 100 as it stands, there's a mix. And usually at the back of the class, you get a lot of guys who are on the older or coming off a rough season, but like have shown they belong in the NFL, right? So like Cam Jordan was 100, Quentin Nelson came in at 99, Demario Davis at 95, Creed Humphrey at 94. Like these are all guys that at various points have been really good. Sometimes they're rookies that had huge breakouts. Like Carson Schwessiger with the Browns was up there.
Yeah, he was great.
There's one guy, though, that stands out that I just looked at that and said, what did this guy do to prove that he's a top 100 quarterback or a top 100 quarterback in the NFL? And that's Bryce Young. I am not sure Bryce Young is a top 100 quarterback in the NFL.
Quarterback or
quarterback. He's certainly not a top 100 player. I have a hard time believing he's up there. Look, Bryce Young had one of the worst rookie seasons we've ever seen, followed by a pretty bad sophomore season, followed by a slightly below average junior season. And this is apparently enough to make you a top 100 player in the NFL. Now, producer Zach is coming in and calling me a hater. You don't have to be a hater. You just have to watch the Carolina Panthers play football to see
I didn't see that there was a chat. I didn't even see that Zach was still in this. Sorry, Zach. Producer Zach is with us today.
And yeah, Kirk, like he established a career best in passing yards and touchdowns and yards per game at 180. Now you see through 23 passing touchdowns. He only threw 11 interceptions. And don't forget that 44% success percentage. Like this is what they're trying to do to justify Bryce Young being a top 100 player. And yeah, I get that he was a lot better than his previous two seasons. But I ran the math on this. If Bryce Young is going to be in your NFL top 100, how many quarterbacks do you need to have? And the answer I came to, total quarterbacks, what do you think the number is, Paul?
Do you mind if I kind of run through it a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just
like, let's list all the quarterbacks better than Bryce Young.
Yeah, I pulled up who I would expect to be in the top 100 because Bryce is there, okay? And I just pulled up the stats from last season. I have yards. I'm looking at yards because Bryce was 21st in total in passing yards and tied for 14th in touchdowns thrown. So if Bryce Young's in the top 100, Matthew Stafford is in the top 100, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Drake May, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams, I would probably put Bo Nix in the top 100 then. Justin Herbert would be, Baker would be, Josh Allen would be, Mahomes would be, Jordan Love would be. That's 13 guys. I don't think you... Aaron Rodgers. I don't think you need to put Aaron Rodgers in there. Lamar, you have to put in 14. Burrow, 15.
You haven't said Jalen Hurts yet.
I mean, Burrow was also. Burrow's tough because he's coming off the injuries, but Burrow probably has to be in there. Brock, right? Your guy. Purdy has to be in there, 16. Jalen Hurts would be in there, 17. I don't.
Jaden Daniels.
I mean, I think he's better, but after
he started 7 games last year.
Yeah, I think that the injuries were too you can leave him out because he ended. When did he? He missed so much last year and didn't. I mean, Burrow at least kind of held it together at the end. Yeah, I guess 17 because I don't think you need to put Stroud in there. Jack would be really upset, but I don't think you need to put Rodgers. Just want to make sure I'm not leaving anyone out.
But let's be clear. Aaron Rodgers did have a better season last year.
No, he did. He did have a better season. So you could. Fine, you could call it 18. 17 or 18 quarterbacks would be in the top 100 if you had Bryce Young in there. And there are still guys, right? There are still other guys that you could throw around and be like, would you put them in there? Maybe.
It has to suck that in football there's 22 players on offense and defense, throwing a couple guys on special teams, and 19 of the top 100 spots go to quarterbacks. It turns out being a below average quarterback is better than being an elite guy at a lot of positions.
How many was it in how many QBs were in it last season?
Last year, I believe we ran this segment last year. I believe there were 17 or 18 quarterbacks.
Oh, so I guess that's in line then. I always thought it was closer. Well, let's see. Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, Burrow 4, Goff 5. It'd be easier if you. I love the control F. Great feature. Goff 5, Hurts was 19, 6, Jaden Daniels 7, CJ Stroud 8, Baker 9, Herbert 10, Stafford and Bo get it to 12. Love, Darnold, Dak 15. Tua was 91. Producer Zach said Tua minus 100. Tua was 91 last year. So 15 or 16 quarterbacks last season.
Yeah. So it's not that it's totally out of the question, but
no. And then I'm going
to make
it makes sense. If we said without Rodgers, which I guess Rodgers will probably.
He very well may.
Do you think he'll be in it?
He's got the name brand.
Yeah. Let's say they put Rodgers in. Bryce coming in at 98 probably checks out them because you're going to probably then see one or two guys here in the 89 to 80 range or the 90 to 81 range.
Last year, Tua was sandwiched right between a guy of a second team All-Pro and Zach Allen and Creed Humphrey, who had a first team All-Pro. I'll tell you this. I think that the Bryce Young selection is going to age worse than the Tua selection last year.
Very, very possible.
We are going to look back at this Bryce Young selection and be like, why on earth did anybody? I'm just a Bryce Young hater, I guess. Look, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I know you liked working with him. This is nothing about Bryce Young's character.
I mean, working with Bryce is fine. I didn't, I didn't.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. You know what, Bryce Young, total jerk. He sucks.
No. He was a normal, nice guy. I mean, he was a sophomore or junior at Alabama at the time, and I didn't really talk. I liked his dad. His dad was a nice dude. I talked with him a lot. Well, Bryce would be coming back from practice and we just hang out on Zoom calls. But I didn't form a friendship with Bryce.
No, he's not Kyron Williams.
No, he's not my buddy. He's not my buddy.
That's one word. But look, Bryce Young, he's going to be a really nice guy. He was getting paid $38 million on his rookie contract and is going to be a backup after that, and that's okay.
He's
a good player. Being in the NFL is hard, but Bryce Young is not a.
It doesn't sound like you think he's a good player, Ziggy.
He's a very good player relative to all the people who play quarterback. Bryce Young is much better.
Borderline top 100 QB, according to you.
Yeah, I think he makes the cut as the top 100 quarterback on the planet right now. That's being top 100 at anything on the planet.
Yeah, if you're a top 100 anything on earth, you're in a good spot. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. I think that's a good spot. Man, we've been pretty consistent, Ziggy. These 50-minute shows right here. We really got this thing nailed down. Producer Zach, thanks for hanging out in the chat the entire episode.
I'll say this. I think producer Zach's a top 100 producer.
Gotta be top 50. I'd be disappointed if producer Zach didn't come in the top 50 at the top 100 producers. We should have that. We should really push for that in sports media. The top 100 producers. That would be just full of bribes and corruption. Surely that would be. But maybe we get producer Zach all the way up into the top 20. That'd be pretty sweet.
I have no interest in bribing.
No, it's a good point. 0.01% from Zach. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back with our Thursday episode again. Hopefully, dude, Ziggy, I called about the couch today. They're like, yeah, with the 4th of July, sometimes things run a little bit late. We could be looking at next week for the couch. And I just said on the phone, I very rarely do I get upset with people on the phone. And I didn't, because, this is just some girl working at the furniture store. I just they told me it was going to be in a week ago. I've been sitting on a beanbag chair for a month. Is there any way we could get this thing in by the end of the week? And she's like, let me give you a call back later when my boss is in. But it looks like I might have another week of sitting in an empty room. But
I don't know why you're buying a couch. That's on you.
What, you would just got a chair?
Or if you're gonna get a couch, go down to the Evanston IKEA and go buy one.
Well, I needed pretty specific measurements for the room that I have. The max dimensions were about 90 by 90, and there's just not a lot of couches that are that small. For sectionals at least, because I want a sectional. But yeah,
I can tell. It's sometimes you say things that reveal to me that you've never moved before. We're in that situation right now. Next year, you will regret this purchase.
Yeah, Bruce Zach said he'd still need it delivered though. Yeah, but this was one that they I didn't realize they would have to get separate pieces and it would be such an ordeal. I thought it would be a week maybe. I have never furnished an apartment for myself. Even the apartments that I lived in after graduating was fully furnished. It sucks. I don't like any of it. And moving, I'm sure, whenever I get back to Jersey, that's going to be, oh my God. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Ziggy, Zach, thanks for hopping on. We'll see you guys Thursday, hopefully with Jack's new studio set up, and we'll get back to the full cast and crew. So until then, see ya.